Imagine touring around Hawaii, but not for the blue beaches or luxury hotels. Instead, you're sneaking into the island's corners that have a unique, quirky vibe, sometimes making you wonder, is this still Hawaii? Hawaii quietly hides a collection of weird towns whose stories are far more exciting than the typical tourist postcards. What's even more fun is that each town has its own peculiar charm. Some are stuck in the past, others haunted by a winding 600-turn road, some have a super hippie vibe, and a few are so quiet that you can hear your own breath. While Hawaii is usually known for being warm and cheerful, these 15 towns show a different side, wild, eccentric, and full of character. Ready to explore Hawaii in offbeat mode? Let's dive in. Wahiawa feels like Hawaii, but not really Hawaii. Imagine living on a tropical island, but the town is right in the center of the island, far from the beaches. For Hawaii, that's already a bit unusual. The vibe in Wahiawa is a mix of pineapple fields, cool highland air, and military activity, as it's located between two major military bases, Schofield Barracks and Wheeler Army Airfield. This makes the population unique, blending locals, military families, and plantation workers. What makes Wahiawa even more interesting are the old-school areas that feel frozen in the 80s and 90s. Many small shops have been around for decades, and the atmosphere is incredibly nostalgic. Oh, and don't forget, Wahiawa is also known for Lake Wilson, one of Oahu's largest man-made lakes, a popular spot for bass fishing. In short, Wahiawa is a town that leaves you a bit confused. Tropical yet cool, Hawaii but inland, simple but full of stories. Waimea is a small town that immediately feels different from the typical Hawaii equals white sand plus coconuts idea. With a population of about 2,120 in 2025, it feels more like an intimate community than a tourist destination. What makes it unique is its Old West tropical version, low wooden buildings, old shops, and a laid-back vibe that feels like a cowboy movie set in a lush green island. Fun fact? This is where Captain James Cook first landed in Hawaii in 1778. Making Waimea one of the most historically significant spots in the entire archipelago. The environment here is also different from the rest of Kauai. Drier air, reddish-brown soil, and clear skies, contrasting with the dense forests of the island's northern part. Plus, with its proximity to Waimea Canyon, nicknamed the Grand Canyon of the Pacific, Waimea has a soft yet quirky adventurous aura that's still warm and inviting. Leaving behind Waimea's Old West tropical feel, the journey slowly leads into Hanapepe, a small town that shifts its vibe to artsy and a little quirky. Hanapepe has the energy of a town of artists that accidentally formed. Small galleries lined up, colorful murals, and indie shops that feel like they've survived the analog era. The population is small, around 2,700 to 3,000 people, according to local estimates, so the atmosphere is intimate and often very quiet. What makes Hanapepe even more weird charming is the Hanapepe Swinging Bridge, an old suspension bridge that sometimes sways a little too much when the wind blows. Many come just to test their courage here. The town is also known as the visual inspiration for the movie Lilo and Stitch, because its vibe is truly that of a small, innocent, warm, and slightly messy Hawaiian town. From the art-filled Hanapepe and its swinging bridge, the journey takes a mental shift to the north of the Big Island, to a small town called Hawi, a place where remnants of the sugar industry meet an eccentric creative community. As soon as you enter Hawi, the atmosphere changes. Vintage shops, cafes that feel like an artist's living room, and old sugar plantation buildings that have been transformed into artsy spots. With only about 2,500 people in the Makawao area, interactions here feel personal. History tells us that Hawi is the birthplace of King Kamehameha I, the most influential figure in Hawaii's history. A large statue of him stands in the neighboring town of Kapa'au, giving the area a strong historical aura. It's a place where the past and present blend together in a way that feels uniquely Hawaiian. From the artsy, sugar-infused Hawi, the next stop takes us across the island to Maui, to Makawao, a town that immediately makes you raise an eyebrow because of its totally quirky concept. A cowboy town in the middle of a tropical island. As you step into Makawao, the aroma of eucalyptus mixes with the dust of the streets, and Western shops stand side by side with local art galleries. With a population of around 7,000, many of the residents are Pāniolo, Hawaiian cowboys who have been part of the island's history since the 19th century. The most iconic event here is undoubtedly the Makawao Rodeo, an annual event held every 4th of July, full of jumps, lassoing, and cowboy hats, all happening at the high altitudes of Maui, not Texas. This contrast gives Makawao a unique energy, cool, traditional, yet still creative. After the historical aura of Hawi, Makawao feels like a wilder, warmer chapter, a small town that proves Hawaii isn't just about beaches and waves. From the cowboy hats of Makawao, the journey mentally shifts back to Oahu, where the atmosphere drastically changes as you enter Laie, a small town known as the center of the Mormon community in Hawaii. As soon as you pass its gates, the vibe is immediately tidier, calmer, and very orderly, a total contrast to Oahu's usual laid-back beach culture, full of surfing and vibrant nightlife. Laie is home to Brigham Young University, Hawaii, a campus that attracts students from across the Pacific, making the town feel like a mini Mormon cultural hub in the midst of the tropical sea. Here, social activities revolve around the church, the community, and family events. Alcohol is rarely seen, and the evenings are generally quiet. Laie also hosts the Polynesian Cultural Center, one of Hawaii's most famous cultural attractions, managed by the LDS community and the university's students. From the neat and religious Laie, the journey shifts to the east side of Oahu, where the mood immediately changes upon entering Waimānalo. Here, the sense of community feels much stronger, more local, and more raw Hawaii. Waimānalo has one of the largest native Hawaiian populations in the entire state, so the cultural identity in this town isn't just decoration, it's woven into daily life. What makes Waimānalo feel different is how protective the community is over their land. Land disputes, pro-local movements, and efforts to preserve ownership rights frequently emerge, giving the town a strong, assertive energy filled with solidarity. This place isn't just about a beautiful beach with blue water, it's a region fiercely guarded with pride. From the vibrant community energy of Waimānalo, the next stop takes us to something much more neat. Lanai City, the only town on the island of Lanai. Upon arrival, the first impression is this Hawaii or a simulation of a small 1920s town? The town is exceptionally well planned, laid out in neat blocks, with Dole Park in the center as its square. This isn't by accident. Lanai used to be a pineapple plantation owned by Dole, and the town was designed like a classic company town for workers. Interestingly, much of the island is still owned by a modern corporation, making Lanai the only semi-private island in Hawaii. The result is a town that feels like a controlled little world. Clean, quiet, uniform buildings, and an atmosphere that feels like Hawaii corporate style. Lanai City feels like entering an alternative timeline. Quiet, tidy, and with a nostalgic quirkiness that makes the town feel like its own unique place. After Lanai City's corporate-like neatness, the next stop takes us to Kaunakakai, the main town of Molokai, which feels like a doorway into old Hawaii. Upon arrival, the pace is immediately slower, not because the people are lazy, but because this town has hardly changed in decades. Many of the old buildings stand as they are. Small shops operate at a relaxed pace, and most famously, there isn't a single traffic light in the town. Seriously, zero. Kaunakakai is like a snapshot of Hawaii before mass tourism arrived. The locals are friendly but low-key. Life moves without a rush, and everything feels familiar, even if it's your first time visiting. At its harbor, you can see Molokai Pier, one of the longest natural piers in Hawaii, stretching far out into the calm, shallow waters. Climbing up to the highlands of Big Island, we enter a world that feels more mystical. Volcano Village. As you approach, the air changes immediately, cool, damp, and filled with a thin mist that hangs between the rainforest trees. This isn't your typical sunny tropical town found in tourist brochures. This is home to people living on the edge of Kilauea, one of the most active volcanoes in the world. The small town has a vibe that blends tranquility with tension. Wooden houses are scattered throughout the dense forest, often shrouded in mist throughout the day. Many artists live here, with works frequently themed around lava, ash, or volcanic landscapes. It's as though inspiration flows constantly from the Earth's activity beneath their feet. Volcanic activity is a real part of daily life. There are occasional tremors, sometimes a whiff of sulfur in the air, and at night, the sky can glow red when lava is active. After the simplicity of Kaunakakai, Volcano Village feels like a new chapter, silent, magical, and a little tense in a beautifully unique way. From the misty, magical Volcano Village, the journey now heads down to Maui to a town that feels almost legendary, Hāna. Everyone has heard of it, but few actually make it there. The reason is simple, but dramatic. The only main access is the road to Hāna, a winding road with 600-plus turns, narrow bridges, steep cliffs, and dense forests on both sides. Once you arrive, it feels like stepping out of the modern world and into a dimension that moves at a much slower pace. Hāna is super remote, and its residents carefully maintain their traditions. Time seems to flow slower here. There's no tourism hustle, no large buildings, just taro farms, black sand beaches, and a community living peacefully in rhythm with nature. After leaving the quietude of Hāna, the journey to Kahakuloa feels like stepping up a notch in the remote Hawaii category. While Hāna has its 600-plus extreme curves, Kahakuloa offers something that will make your heart beat a little faster. Narrow, steep roads that are often only wide enough for one car, with sheer cliffs on one side and the ocean on the other. This isn't your typical tourist route. This is the kind of path that makes you think, oh, I'm really on the edge of the world. Kahakuloa Village is incredibly small. Old houses are scattered across the hillsides, and the community has a strong generational tradition. Many of the residents have lived here for dozens of generations, and you can feel it in the way they interact and welcome visitors. The landscape is like a painting. Steep cliffs dropping straight into the blue ocean, sudden bursts of rain, and the tropical, humid air mixed with the scent of the sea. Leaving behind the extreme paths of Kahakuloa, the next stop takes us to Maunaloa, a small town that once served as the center of the pineapple industry on Molokai. This is no metaphor. Maunaloa was actually built as a company town by the Pineapple Company in the early 1920s, complete with worker housing, shops, and even a small movie theater. Pineapple trucks would come and go, and thousands of tons of fruit were shipped off the island each year. After the pineapple industry shut down in the late 1980s, Maunaloa seemed to be frozen in time. Molokai Ranch, which owned most of the land and buildings, shut down many of its operations in 2008, leaving behind rows of empty buildings, old schools, a general store, and even an old movie theater that remains unused to this day. Pāhoa, a small town in the Puna district, feels like an alternative universe. While other towns are busy with development, Pāhoa lives life in its own way, laid back, colorful, and always prepared for the possibility that the road could be swallowed by lava at any moment. Not hyperbole, Highway 130 was nearly covered by lava flows from the 2014 Kilauea eruption, and in 2018, a major eruption actually cut off several access points, making parts of the area feel isolated from the outside world. What makes it even more unique is that the town has become a magnet for hippies, spiritual seekers, herbalists, and free-spirited artists. In Pāhoa Village, psychedelic murals sit alongside small restaurants that only open when the mood is right. Many residents choose to live off-grid, using solar energy and growing their own food in the volcanic soil, which is incredibly fertile. Pāhoa is weird, yes, but it's the kind of weird that feels warm, wild, and full of character. Kalaupapa is on a different level of remoteness. It feels like stepping into a separate world that has intentionally been cut off from the outside. From 1866 onwards, this place was home to the most famous leprosy colony in America, separated by nearly 600-meter-high vertical cliffs that made escape nearly impossible. Even today, access is extremely restricted. Only with special permits, official guides, or medical workers can one enter. The most common way to reach Kalaupapa in the past was to descend over 1,600 natural steps down the Pali Cliffs or ride a mule. What makes the atmosphere even more frozen is that many buildings left by the patients, old chapels, wooden homes, and historical cemeteries, have been preserved exactly as they were. Kalaupapa is weird not because it's odd, but because its silence carries a deep historical weight. Time here seems to slow down, honoring those who were once locked away in solitude.